members, so you don't miss 2 races in a row, then they never make sense. Anyway, I have these for you. You can fill those out. Brainerd Copper has a resume longer than I could ever go on.
Don't get started.
So I'm not even going to start it, but introduce to you Mr. Brainerd Copper. Give him a big round of applause, please.
Well, don't even start that stuff, because your resume is good as your last move. All right, last year we went through, we had a audio visual, and I got to looking at that presentation last week and realized that there's a lot of it that doesn't really apply to what we're doing here on Chickamauga Lake. And so, and I didn't have time to recast the audio-visual presentation because I'm not real good at that stuff anyhow. And didn't have time to get to Keith, who is, and maybe we could have made it happen. So, we're going to do it right here with my bad drawing. But we're going to try to keep it all in what we do on Chickamauga Lake right here. First thing, it's your day in the barrel. It's your day to be race committee chairman, and I think it's incumbent on you to be ready when you get here. Watch the television if nothing else. Look at your cell phone. Find out what the weather's doing so you're not surprised when you get here. But when you get here, we ask that you come an hour early. Why is that? So we can make plans. What are some of the things that we want to know, that we want to find out before we get out there on the water and try to start a race?
Wind direction and strength.
I can't hear you.
Wind direction and strength.
All right. Wind direction.
Is there gas in the boat?
Not going to be a problem. The guy running boats this year is awesome.
Wind direction, strength. What was the second one?
Gas.
Gas in the boat.
Oh, what a good call.
Does everybody know where the gas is kept if there's not gas in the boats?
Yeah. No.
Bottom of the ramp.
Gas in the boat.
Is the whole race committee there?
If you're going to, you might have to do it by yourself. I've had to do it by myself, and I bet some of you had to do it too. I had to do it by myself one day when it was blowing about 15. Fun. What about?
Flags.
Good call. Flags. We've had an issue when we've had a race committee go out without flags. Flags. Yeah, that one ended up in a protest. How about marks and ground tackle?
Yes.
Sometimes the mark, you know, and particularly in the summertime, when the junior program's going, you might find that your ground tackle has gone over to the Opti-Doc.
Perhaps they need to buy their own ground tackle.
Yes.
Marks and ground tackle. Let's see what else. Some other things. Fuel.
Timer.
Do you have a score sheet? Do you have a clipboard to put it in so you don't lose it over the side when the wind blows, as has happened?
And right on. Timer.
Pen, pencil, stopwatch.
Stopwatch is a good thing. We have our friendly timer that'll get your race started, but if you're running a cruising boat race, you're going to need an accurate timer to take the time when it's handicapped. Score sheets, timer, maybe a compass, fuel, ground tackle, marks, blankets. And one more thing. when you're running races, you're running them for the sailors. And so perhaps we should find out from our fleet captain what kind of race we want today. Now here's the kind of thing that has happened in the past. I'm guessing it was 10 years ago. We had a group of sailors, and I think they were flying Scots, but I'm not sure because it's a long time ago. They were going to a national regatta of some kind. There were like 4 or 5 of them. And that's all that was out there on a Sunday afternoon, and they asked the race officer to help. For short races, real short, where they'd get a lot of practice handling the spinnakers, starting, and they wanted several races, and they wanted them real short. And the race officer said, no, we're going to have Gold Cup races. And he ran them on 1 mile long legs, one race, and he went home. And the guys did not get the practice they asked for. That guy's not in the club anymore. And he's not missed, sadly. But that's not the kind of thing you want to do. Find out what the sailors want. Talk to the fleet captain. Because we do this for the sailors. One of the great problems with race managers historically has been they don't think like sailors. The key to being a decent race officer, not necessarily good or great or anything, but just being decent, is to try to never forget you are a sailor and what would you want if you were out there. All right, so now we've prepared ourselves. So we come up to the club, and we're all prepared, and there's no wind. Now what is the race committee supposed to do if you can't start because there's no wind? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. You know, I'm going to have to get a damn hearing aid whether I want it or not.
I didn't hear you.
Postpone legally, thank you. You fly code flag AP, answering pennant. This gentleman right here. Now, for regatta, when we had the Flying Scot women here, we were making signals ashore on the flagpole. But for our races, and generally speaking, for our even regattas, signals made ashore are made on the boat. When you fly code flag AP, do we make any sounds?
Yes.
2, thank you. 2 sounds when it goes up, and 1 when it comes down. Now this you can postpone indefinitely with this flag. You put it up, and you wait for the wind, and maybe it shows up, and maybe it doesn't. Yeah. The other flag, the other signal that you could make ashore, if you needed to communicate a change to the sailors, and if you've got a regatta going or something like that, and you've got a sailing instruction change, is this one right here, code flag Lima. It goes up with 1 sound, it comes down with nothing. Lima on the water means follow the committee vote. And on shore, it means there's notices for the sailors. Sailors need to check with the message board. And now we get to the serious stuff. You got to set a course. Most important thing a sailor or race committee does is set a starting line. We're fortunate here. Most of the time, the wind is up and down this lake. The function of the way the mountains lay in here and the way the fronts come through. Now and again, it does come across the land, and those are problematic and difficult. Starting line. We try when we can to set our start boats to windward. Starting line, how should it be set? Perpendicular to wind, if possible. Now this is where it gets tricky. Sometimes you can't. Let's say that we've got a wind coming from Booker T and we're running a race in the wintertime and we're going up to Fairview. In a case like that, you set your line perpendicular to the course. Because if you start trying to set it perpendicular to the wind, one end is really going to be favorable. And we don't want that. A square starting line makes for fair race. There are a couple of little tricky things that happen. You got a committee boat here, starting mark here. That committee boat needs to be a lot further forward, doesn't it? I'm going to make him up here. By the way, notice that I drew this line on the course side of the mark because that's where the start is. The start is not in the middle of the mark here or back here. It is up here on the course side of the mark. We talked about this a little bit last year. Current doesn't play a lot. But if we're sailing up and down the lake here, we do know we got a current that goes that way. And that does affect how boats start. Because a boat, in real light air, especially, now in heavier air, it's not going to play. But in real light air, of which we do have some, I'm told. And a lot of times that's in the summertime when all the spillways are open and we got quite a bit of current. So if the wind is blowing from there, and you've got a boat down here, and you think you're sailing in this direction here, you are not. You're actually sailing in this direction here because the current is setting you, and it's setting everybody else too. So on a case like that, there's a couple of things you can do. A, lengthen the starting line, or B, move the committee boat or move the mark down to favor this end a little bit to kind of keep people away from that end. And there's a converse. We're sailing that way instead. And the wind is coming from down here. In that case, a boat that thinks he's sailing here is actually sailing there. And boats are going to pile up that way, and they're going to get there early. And then once again, a little bit longer start line gives the sailors a little bit of room to wiggle out. It is not a rule, but race management classes say that a starting line ideally should be 1.5 boat lengths per boat. You've got 20 flying Scots. You just figure for 20 feet because the math is easier that way. And so you figure for 30. You figure for 30 feet each. So you need a 600-foot line. Starting lines that are too short, not much fun, are they? Starting lines that are too long or a race committee's friend, except if you haven't got the starting line exactly square, you've exacerbated how bad the problem is if your starting line is not square. The less square it is, the more favored one end or the other will be. Let's think. Now, what to do if, as it happened to me here, and I was real unsuccessful at it, do if you are running a race and the wind is coming from here toward Booker T, and you're running a Sunday afternoon race in July for our dinghy fleet. We've got 3 different classes out there. We've got the Belgian 14s, we've got the MCs, we've got the Flying Scots, and we've got a wind that is all over the lot. Yes.
I take them down past GOPRO down there, towards
Thank you.
them.
The best you can do is take them and try to get some distance. We ran a race last year somewhere where we went down to feed the horses house down by a pumping station to start a race to try to get a windward leg. The wind was not directly opposite, it was blowing in that direction. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? Because this is a problem we have. When the wind is all over the lot, you can't set a square starting line either because you don't know where the wind's going to be. There is a race committee solution, but it may not be totally fair to the sailors, but you have to weigh that against the fact that we all come to sail. We don't come to just practice starting. Let's see, what have I got here on my notes?
Hey, Brainerd.
Yeah.
I had a situation happen to me at the Flying Scott Regatta last year where we had a square line, and at the 2-minute sequence, the wind went 90 degrees. At the 1 minute one, it went 90 degrees. I feel I made a mistake by, I actually postponed. I put up the AP.
Nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that, but what happened is, I could have let them get a race in.
I'm sorry, what happened after you said that? I missed that.
I think I messed it up because I killed off the race that they could have raced, and the wind died not soon after that. Because they came here to sail too. They didn't come down here to get perfect starting on that.
If you've got a 90-degree wind shift, somebody's going to take you to the protest run for sure. In a regatta.
If you said the wind died right after that, that was because.
It might have died. Look, you were running a regatta, so you had mark boat help. You know, all you can do is to try to be light on your feet and get somebody to get their weather mark boat to get me a mark out there as quick as I can. You can do that's. I always use the term shucking and jiving. Boy, howdy, when you're running regattas, you have to do that a lot of times because sometimes the wind does that. But basically, I keep thinking of a regatta, and once again, I said in the beginning we won't talk about what happens here and not what happens at regattas. But I ran a regatta here, so I'm now going back on what I was saying. MC Scow regatta. Terribly unsuccessfully. And the wind came right out of the harbor, not quite from here, but out of the harbor toward Booker T. And there were thunderstorms going down, not this valley, but the next valley over Sequatchie. And the wind kept going back and forth, huge shifts, and gusty. Several of you were sailing that are here, David, and I could not get a line set, no matter what I did. And then I started pressing. and then I couldn't do it right. And some of my friends, the Commodore, Steve Sherman, Chris Cyril, we're here to race. Oh, I know that. I've tried so long, and I couldn't get the damn thing right. No matter what I did, when I'd say, all right, hell with it, we're going to sail. Drop mark, let's go. And at the start, we got a general recall. Everybody's over the line one end or the other early because the wind does this, and here they go, or here they come. I fought that thing that whole day. My goodness, and I lose sleep over right now. I think about this. This is the sorriest job I ever did of running races. And I know what I should have done in retrospect. In the retrospect, I should have put up an I flag or a Z flag and said, all right, you guys, hey, I'm going to penalize you. Not my fault. But we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to get ahead of myself about penalty flags. But the AP, the answering pennant, is the race committee's friend. And when something goes to pieces on you on the starting line, and it can, that bails you out. It's the one, and you should not be ashamed to use it, and you have it ready to go. Yes.
Brainerd, what suggestion do you have for the same kind of thing? Say it's a Wednesday night or a Saturday afternoon, so you just have keel boats, and the wind is coming over the hill, and even in the summer, that's a short distance to try and set a line.
Keel boats?
For keel boats. What do you
Keel
suggest?
boats, we're going to be running them up and down the lake mostly anyhow.
So if you can't get a...
You do the best you can.
Okay.
Talk to your fleet captain. Say, what do you want to do here? What's wrong with that? Say, hey, look. Go to the fleet captain. Say, look, I can set you a half a mile long way with me. And then we can go down to Gold Point. Is that okay? And if not, and in the wintertime, it doesn't come up because we're going to be in the channel.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, it's a legitimate question. At least everybody gets a start. Because you can't set a leg much more than a half mile long. When the wind is right over the hill here, out there about where the red nun is, it's about as close as you can get. Monty Humphrey set a weather mark for me one time up here. That red nun is way much further out than it used to be. It used to be a half inch distance. And I set Monty out there, maybe he was halfway to where the red nun is now. And I had 18 knots down at Booker T, and Monty had 2 knots at the weather mark. That's not fair to sailors. That's just not fair. You got to get them out. So you got to give them some wind, and you got to get them away from the shore here when the wind comes over. So I'd say in that case, talk to the fleet captain and make sure it's okay with them if they got a half mile long or less. Whatever leg, that might not be 100 yards across there. Try to start it as far back in there as you can.
Hey, Brainerd.
Yeah.
I was doing race committee on a Sunday when I had 2 separate fleets because there were enough flying Scots that they had a separate start, and the wind was very, very light. I got the general fleet started, and then about 2 minutes before the flying Scots were going to start, we had to postpone because the wind was totally died. Now, if I postponed for them, all those other guys that were way down the lake, are they technically postponed as well? Or they just ignored me, so I don't know.
What a great question. What a great question. I was going to dodge that one if I could. I brought that up. It is really hard to signal one fleet and not another. However, if you blew 2 horns to postpone, if they're down here on the race course, 2 horns on the race course means several things. Mostly it means shorten course at a nearby mark. So, if you postpone for this fleet down here, these guys here are going to expect to finish at the next mark, or they might expect to finish. Now, race management classes always say you fly the class flag with the postpone below it. Because this class sees it and that class doesn't. And it really is exacerbated if you put up cancel. Because then everybody thinks the race is over and there's only one class. So you got it. And yet you had to postpone.
I mean, I had.
I don't know, listen, it's a great question, and it's a situation that nobody wants to be in. You know what? I'll tell you one thing that could do is to blow 2 whistles instead of that horn. Because the rules only say a sound signal. Hey, listen, I'm shucking it down right now. Where the guys down the race course don't hear. That's all I can tell you. That's the best you can do.
It would help if everybody had the radio.
Well, you can't legislate that. And we'll go there. We're going to go there too in a minute. My sentiments on that subject. Line, square, if possible, course if not. My coffee got cold.
Hey, Brainerd.
Yeah.
So in that situation, couldn't you fly the Lima and use it as come within hail?
Yeah, but
with the
you could, except you put up once again 2 horns.
yeah. Okay.
That's
so it has to go with the sound.
That's an out. That's a thought. So once again, 2 horns or 2 sounds, and that's the trick. The trick is that
even though you've blown 2 horns, the accompanying flag must be blown. So the 2 horns is for postponement. That only affects those that are not racing. If you thought it might be short course, there should be a committee vote.
I'm sorry, I missed that, David. You're going to run it by me again now.
If you blow 2 horns for postponement, the postponement flag only affects those that have not raced.
Yeah, but there's another.
Having said that, the accompanying flag has to go with the horns. So if they load 2 horns down the course and they expect a boat at the next mark to finish them there, if there's not a mark flying the appropriate, a boat flying the appropriate flag at that location, and it does not apply, that flag has to be in place. So a short course flag must be flown at that next mark to indicate that that's a short course.
Yes, but you know,
even if they
the
go.
thing is, but it's still going to be a confusing deal. And
Well,
yeah,
it's not about
legal,
finishing,
this is legal. And I'm thinking once again, not as a racer, but I'm thinking that I'm on the boat and I hear 2 horns. I'm going to be looking around. I'm going, what the heck's going on here?
But you still have to go to the next mark.
I think maybe having another sound signal that you can make that wouldn't be heard still is probably the better solution. But once again, shoving and jiving.
Hey, Brainerd.
Yeah.
Last year you came up with a tip about using your hand on setting your course.
Wait a minute.
What was that? On setting the line. Do you remember when you use your thumb to set your mark?
Yeah, well, we talked about a square line. There's 2 ways to do it. Do it with a compass, or you can do it by guessing by God, the way I do it. If you have a compass, I'll do the math here real quick on the board. Let's say the wind is from come on now. winds are 195 degrees. And you want to know what angle that you want to do from this committee boat with the flag flying right there down to that mark. And you've got to think, 90 degrees, how do I do that? Well, the way you do that is this. You subtract 100 degrees, you got 95, and you add 10, and that's the heading that you want right there. Now the way I do it is I put my nose in the wind. And this is getting harder for me now that this ear is no longer working. But I used to, because I'm now deaf in my right ear, that I would listen to the wind in my ears, spread my wings here, and roll my left hand over and put the mark on that thumbnail right there. It gives the pen that much of a it favors the pen, just slightly. And the theory behind that, and I got it from a guy who won the St. Petersburg Trophy, so he knows what he's doing. And the theory behind it is this. Get your nose sheet up here. You got a starting line. I've got that one favorite the committee vote. And everybody, the starboard tack boats go this way and the port tack boats go this way. And when they come back together, assuming everybody's sailing the same speed, and basically like if we're all flying Scots, the boats tend to be all the same speed. And they'll come back, and the starboard tack boat's going to have right away. By favoring the pen that much, you give the port tack boats a chance where they would not have it otherwise. If they're a little bit faster, maybe they can cross. And that's all. It's just race management never tells you to officially to favor the pen by 2 degrees. But by and large, when race officers talk, most of them favor the pen by 2 or 3 degrees, except I know one guy that favors the committee boat by 2 or 3 degrees. Because he wants to start attack, he wants to remove any doubt that they're, and let the starboard attackers have it. But this really works really well. But the problem is, you've got to be sure you got your hands back here. If you do it here, you've got to be sure that you are in fact spread out. And it helps to do both hands, even though you don't use this one other than to balance this one. Another problem that I mentioned ground tackle up here on my notes. I've had one of our friends, a good friend of mine, running marks for me at sailboat races down here. And 2 different times, he has, this good friend of mine hadn't put enough scope out when the wind's blowing. And I've had marks come adrift and never gotten in the middle of a race. The second time, I had said, be sure you got enough scope this time. So help me God, that mark came loose. When the wind blows, you've got to put extra scope on these marks. When we don't have any wind, you can drop the mark right down there with an extra foot, and they're going to stay right there. But when the wind blows, he can carry a mark. Especially when it comes out of the north. You got to put a lot of extra scope on the mark to get it to stay where you want it, because you want that anchor to dig, rather than just have the weight hold us and have that mark bouncing along the bottom. As the mark takes off on the way down to Chickamauga Dam in the middle of your race, and then you have to cancel the race. I've got a race management program from U.S. Sailing that talks about during the starting sequence, the timer takes control of the boat. So here's who takes control of our starts, right here. When you decide you've got everything right, the course is set, the sailors need to know what the course is. According to the rules, which rule is that? Rule 27.1 says that the course must be set at or before the warning signal. So, and I have failed on this one. I was running the flying shot white husband down in North Alabama. And the wind was blowing like hell, and it was cold. And Bill Robinson and I were on the committee boat. And we went into starting sequence. We had a little horn, we had the boat all around. And somebody came and said, "What's the course?" Uh-oh. AP. And I said, AP, right now. That's all we can do. Because I just absolutely, totally forgot to set the dead burnt course. So the first thing you do is set the course. And I try to set it as soon as I can. I've got friends who are national race officers and international race officers who will put it in the sailing instructions to set it 1 minute before or something like that. I think as soon as I know what I'm going to do, I want to put it up there. Let the sailors know as long as possible what they're going to be doing. And then we turn it over to the timer. Does everybody know how this thing works? There are 3 settings. There are 3 settings. There's the 6-minute setting, which I do not like to use unless I postpone. There's the 5-minute rolling setting. I set it on that. You flip the switch, and then when you push this button, you don't have to worry. Unless I got it muted unless it blows those paper towels out of the back. Now, 1 minute later, it's going to do that again. When that one goes, you better have your class flag ready to go. When you flip that one, let's talk about that for a minute before we turn this thing loose. Before you start a race, should you have your flags all ready?
Yeah.
All of them. What all do you need?
Class flag, AP.
Class flag, prep, what else?
Individual recall.
General recall, AP, everything you might need for that start. Have them all out and don't have them rolled up, laying in the floor. How about an X flag in case you got to vote over early? You need to have them all out and have them ready to go. I feel that during the starting sequence, there shouldn't be a lot of chit-chat going on in the boat. Because it's one of these things that you can get to talking and somebody tells a story, and goodness knows I know I'll be subject on this subject right here. Get to telling something and think, oh crap, what time is it? All right. So, and you just display. Oh, I wrote it the wrong way. I wasn't ready, was I? That's just when you put that flag up, put it up. What do the rules say? It's the horn or the flag that counts. Which one do the sailors rely on? That's right. But if somebody, we went to a protest hearing once where a famous sailor, very famous sailor, wanted to know, well, was it when the flag started up or when it got up? Prep flag. Prep flag just came loose and I pulled it out. We need to get it. Now we got 3 minutes to the start. We got time to look at the wind, see if the wind is, by the way, you notice that we got this flag, this staff shorter than this one, so that the flags will not overlap, but you have to have a chance to see both of them up. When they started this stuff, they said it was to be flown over. The prep was to be flown under the class flag. It'd be easier to do it like that. But nobody does it that way. They do it usually with two separate, and at all levels, they have 2 separate flags. But you have time to recheck your start, your line, make sure everything's right, that you've got somebody that's calling the line, that we know what time we have done this. By the way, you should always write down what time you put up at least one of these flags, so that if there's any kind of a protest, you can figure out when you started. You know you put this one up at 9:25, you know you start the race at 10. Write down when you put this one up at 9:01, you know you started at 9:05. How much time we got left before we go again? 2 minutes. Kill 2 minutes. We're going to kill 2 minutes, and then we're going to take a break. Yes.
I remember being on the committee boat one time with you, with my wife and another couple, and not just the girls got to talking, but the guys did too, and you were watching what was going on, and you just said, no talking. And that has remained in my mind ever since.
It can happen. You got 3 minutes and nothing's going on. And it can get away from it. And then you've blown the start and you look like you don't know what you're doing. 30 seconds. What are we going to do in 30 seconds?
Take down
Get ready to take down the blue.
That's right. Now it's in 20 seconds. Things are starting to get heated. Guys are shouting at one another on a race course. All right, our prep is down, and we're going to start this race in 1 minute. It's really down now. We're going to start in 1 minute. It is a good thing to have more than one person watching the starting line. Sailors have been known to be early. Where's my X flag? Oh, here it is. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, 2 things. This is the 5-minute rolling start, and in 1 minute it's going to be going again. So you got to make sure that is off. You got 1 minute to get that off. But the next thing is, suppose someone has started early. Doesn't happen a lot. What's the deal? Anybody going to tell me what to do? You put up this flag here with one sound. Now, how long does this flag stay up?
Until this PMS clears the line.
Until all boats clear the line. All right, let's say 2 boats are over early, and 1 comes back. And I promise you, he's probably going to say, "Am I clear?" Happens. Well, you're on your own. I never do. But I might tell somebody else to on the boat. I ain't afraid of folks to know this. But here's what I've seen happen. I've seen a guy come back from way up the course, maybe a couple hundred yards, and get within about 20 feet of the starting line, and he keeps looking expectantly at the race committee, and finally turn around and start sailing. And I keep thinking, why in the name of heaven, if he came all the way back, would he not come all the way back? He came back a couple 300 yards, and then just before he got to the, he had to know or maybe he thought we weren't looking. I don't know. I just don't know. Or maybe he thought, I don't think they got me. I just still don't know. Until all boats return, race committee management classes are adamant that you do not dip the flag to tell the guy who's clear. It is the sailor's responsibility, just as it is on the start. It's the sailor's responsibility to manage his start properly. How long do I leave this flag up if nobody comes back? 4 minutes. And the reason it takes 4 minutes is because there might be another class starting 5 minutes later. And you take it down with no sound. Okie dokie, so our race is going. It's almost 10 o'clock, and let's take us a break. And we're going to talk about some other stuff. Okay? considered either way.
Well, we had back when I was pretty new here, we had a race committee had a course set, and then they changed it, and I looked at it and knew what it was. But then before, as far as they changed it, and I was working on old information, and I was working on all the issues.
So guys, there's nothing in the rules or race management that says
To this day, I don't know. It's one of the secrets that I check again to make sure.
Yeah, once I tried to take it out.
Basically, I just made a basic outline and thought we'd all discuss it. And I wish you brought that up. That's what I'm looking for, is discussion.
Well, tell them, you got any better needs?
Shall we,
No, I'm trying to get through it. Please go ahead.
yes, shall we sound the horn?
So you're deaf in one ear and I'm blind in one eye.
Well, and when I lost my hearing over here, I discovered that this was my good ear. I can't hear shit in this one. And I've had a hearing aid that doesn't work, and I lost it. It was so good that I lost it. And it was
Well, this was my 2020 hour. Now I'm at
put it there, pal.
now I'm at a 2030 eye.
Yeah, I got you. There you go. There's a lot about being this old that ain't no goddamn fun.
I know.
All right, guys. All right, back to work, everybody.
Y'all let's do it more.
Hey, everyone, listen up. I'm going to be making RC's schedule for everyone to do your RC duty this year. I have some forms here that will help me schedule you when you want to be scheduled.
How about put a calendar up, Keith, and we just sign our names on it?
We're going to do this, okay? We're going to do this, and then I'm going to make up a calendar.
Can I get a card, please?
Okay, so if you have special instructions, just...
We have to turn them in today.
Yes, please. Well, that's fine.
Can I bring it back? Just because I'm bringing out my summer vacation.
Email me as soon as you can.
All right, we're going to postpone momentarily here and backtrack a little bit because a couple of questions have come up that we probably properly should have addressed. And if we keep doing this, we'll get it right one of these days. Now, when you're running races out here, I pointed out, think like a sailor. And that means, among other things, don't put a mark so close to shore that there's no wind or that it's too shifty. And for God's sake, never sail anybody up to that mark up at the castle. It's impossible when it's in light air. Amen. Can I get an amen from anybody? Amen. That was out here in the dark this summer, trying to get around that doggone
Move it back out, please, before the race.
Yeah. Until we get that moved somewhere, don't ever. I was asked about, you posted a course and you had to change it in the middle of the, you posted it, you haven't got into the starting sequence yet, and you have a major wind shift, and so you changed the course from whether you move something, whether you posted 190 degrees and suddenly it's 165 or something like that. How can, if you change the course, or you posted a windward leeward and you decided that you're going to be a modified windward leeward, or maybe you're going to do a triangle, and you've already got this posted, what to do. And I think the solution here is that you don't have to do anything, there's nothing in the rules about this. But to be fair to the sailors, I think you should fly a Lima where they gotta come by and you call their attention to the fact that you've changed the course. That's really the fair way to do that. And I had a question about that A flag that we fly as our class flag for most of our races here. We do have class flags for Flying Scots. We've got class flags for Catalina Gold and Catalina Silver. We've got class flags for the MCs. We've got them for the Thistles. And the rules say that if you do not use the flag of the class, you have to tell people what you're using. We use this A, and I was asked about that. But if you were to get and can't find an A, and you can't find a B or a C when you get up here, maybe somebody carried them off. We had a case the year before last when the hotshot race officer of Brainerd Yacht Club ran a regatta, and he took all the A, B's, and C's off the race committee because he was using the real flags. And then the hotshot race officer went home and left the real flags on the boat and did not put the A, B, and C back on. How about that? And if somebody came up here to run a regatta, to run a race the next day or the next week, and there weren't any damn flags. He didn't come up and check first, but he didn't have the flag he needed for a class flag. He tried to run one without it. You can use any flag for the class flag if you let the sailors know. And that would have been a case where if he had flown code flag Lima, he could use any flag that he had on the boat. He could use the PYC flag. He could use the blue flag. He could use anything as long as you tell the sailors what you're going to do. And that would have been his out. And we didn't address that way last year, and we should have, because I've been thinking about it for a year. Because I was just equally at fault with the situation.
Hey, Brainerd,
Yes.
if you set a course and then you go to the box to put out the placard, and someone has, inadvertently dropped them on the side of the boat.
Oh, I said that, me too.
What is the best thing to do if you don't have the right color of the course you set?
Leave them. Leave them up and tell us later. Have them come by and tell them.
Okay, let's tell them, okay.
That's the fair way to do that. These plastic ones don't float.
Yeah.
I mean, the aluminum ones just do not float. They go straight to the bottom. I tossed a WL in a couple of years ago, and I don't think it ever got replaced. I hope it did. And something that I haven't mentioned is that Frontier Yacht Club has a set of sailing instructions. They are on the website. I can't tell you where they are but this is where I got them. I printed them off the website for last year. And then what we race under, you're not supposed to race legally. Boy, U.S. sailing says you cannot have a race without published sailing instruction, and every sailor must have access or must have a copy. Well, belonging. We have our class, and so I think everybody should check these suckers out because they're what you're actually operating under. And it says here on the headline is Brainerd Yacht Club Club Race Standard Sailing Instructions. And if you're going to make a change in those when you're going to run a race for any reason, fly a Lima somewhere, either on the committee boat or before they go out or after you get out there.
Brandon?
And for help in setting a course, Steve Sherman put this thing together, and it's pretty doggone good, and it's pretty doggone complete. And it's also on the website. Setting a race course and running the race. And it's updated Oh boy, updated 220, just a year ago. Steve updated this thing. It's quite good, covers a lot of territory. And I think everybody's gonna run a race, ought to look it over. If you don't take it with you, you ought to read it.
Brainerd?
Yeah.
While you're covering different areas, I've got a pet peeve. Wednesday night races. I race on a Catalina 22. It's not one of the fastest boats in the club. But the race committee, if they set a long course in light air, by the time we get halfway through, the wind has died. So if they could set a shorter course in light air on Wednesday night, we might have a chance of finishing the race.
Well, we have to take that under advisement. Everybody here listening to this, that's not bad feedback. And when we do, and look, and I'm gonna address the failing wind. We'll address that later, in a little bit later, actually, not that much longer.
Brainerd,
Yeah.
following Pete's comment, what I would also like to suggest is that the race committee plan to make sure that they start their 5-minute sequence at 5 minutes before 7, so that the race can start at 7, and give ourselves the advantage of those few minutes.
Is the published thing that the races, the warning signal will start it'll be warning at 7, or the race will start at 7? I don't know right now. Josh, do you know?
I'll have an answer for you in a minute. I don't remember.
I don't either. I know that the Sunday races,
That's a
the
quick
race
meeting
is,
issue.
the morning is at 2 o'clock, right? On Sunday, the race is, the morning is supposed to be at 2.
2:30.
2:30?
Just on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, well,
To start a few minutes
well, that needs
earlier.
to be, that's something that, hey Keith, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening.
You making notes?
Right on, we'll talk about it.
Okay, all right.
Just to gain the advantage of a few minutes
Yeah.
on Wednesday evening.
I
will
see your
oftentimes
point.
make a
Our,
difference.
our race officer is going to, the head of club racing is making notes back there.
We're gonna discuss it in the fleet meeting at 1 o'clock, right?
Right.
Okay, it's coming up.
Moving on.
All right, we had a start. We had boats over early, and we got them back or not. If a boat does not return, how is it scored? Well, you scored as OCS. This is true story. For years, they were called premature starters. And the initials were PMS. It's a true story. And U.S. sailing called international sailing, world sailing, that was ISAF in those days, and they're changing it to on course side, OCS, because they want it to be politically correct. And that's a true story. All right, we've got the boats back. Now, what we didn't talk about was, when the race started, what is incumbent upon you besides noting who is over? Should you call and tell them, hey Josh, you're over early?
An attempt should be made to hail.
The rules say no. And waste management instructions say, you also do not say loudly, all clear. If they're all clear. Now the reason for it is because you start telling one guy something and you don't tell somebody else, you have entered the competition. Typically, a sailing instruction will say the race committee will make an attempt to notify all OCS boats, but failure to hear a hail or failure to make a hail will not constitute grounds for redress. The reason is you cannot possibly get to all boats unless they all have got a radio. Now, some classes want to be hailed. Most sailors want to be hailed. Sailors always want their hands held. Me too. Now, when we run a Flying Scot regatta here, and I committed to run the Flying Scot thing here this week, they'll want radio hail. And we'll put it in the sailing instructions, although I don't like it. But that's what they want, and that's what they're going to get. The Catalina's. The thing is, if all of them don't have a radio, it really gives some guys an unfair advantage. And I don't know, I don't think they ought to do it, but they like it, so by golly they get it. Because we're doing it for who? For what it's like, want it done. Not for what I want done. However, at the start, just keep your mouth shut. Talk on the boat. Sometimes what is said on the committee boat impacts race course unfavorably. And I think of a case where I was chief judge, one of the few times I ever was or shall be a chief judge at a national championship regatta. And I was only the chief judge because they couldn't find anybody else. It was a women's national championship. And the race officer, a very famous international race officer on the West Coast, started the race. There weren't very many boats in it. It was, getting females acclimated to racing. We're building an agenda here. And they were all over early, except one boat. About 18, a very good friend of mine. And the race officer said, and 18 was right at the committee boat. And the race officer turned to the other people on the committee and said, they're all over early, except 18. And 18 heard their number. And they came back. And of course, they won the race. Because I was a judge. And I said, screw it. They all came. Nobody came back. He left the I flag up, and the X flag up. And all of them sailed the race. She sailed it too. 18 sailed it too. And she was the only legal start in the race. So everybody else got a D in it. And I don't know to this good day whether I did right or not.
Why didn't he have a general recall? Why didn't he have a general recall?
Because he did not. He's a retired Navy captain. Is that correct? That's, I think, is my answer. And there is the beautiful Sandy Tosca, no longer among the living, was race officer in Palm Beach, California. And she was having trouble with the 505s, getting them off the line. She had 40 boats, and they kept busting the line. So many of them over early that she had a general recall, and a general recall, and a general recall, and another general recall, and now it was time for lunch. And she came back in the club, and she was mad as hell. And she determined that, by God, she was going to do something about that. So the first race after lunch, here come the 5-0s, once again charging the line. And her line sighter at the gun says, another damn general recall. And Sandy said, no, I have the number 5 legal starters. And nobody else ever busted the line for that whole regatta.
Now, to clarify, in a regatta or a race, how many over early votes constitutes a general recall?
There you go. What a great question. And the rules are very good on this. They say that your race committee must note all votes that are over early, and they may signal the general recall. They do not say the race committee must signal a general recall. We ran one in Nassau one time where we had 6 votes over early out of 35. And I was thinking, man, this is a great race. I wasn't a race officer. I was overseeing the thing. And I was complimenting the race officer, man, that's good eyes, you did a great job. And lo and behold, we got protested out in Europe. One said, oh, you should have had a general recall. The rules are real clear. You may, you don't have to. So, sailors come to sail, they do not come to practice starting at a regatta. And so it's a gray area, yes?
So, in a technical sense, the only time you would have to call a general recall is if everybody's over early, correct?
No, not really.
You can still run the race, you can make everybody come back in that
You do
case.
not have to.
Okay. All right, so you can just make everybody come back.
John Wesley, a very good race officer and a member of this club for years, for whom we honor each year at our annual banquet, would start a race with everybody over early as long as he thought it was fair. He'd blow the gun at 1 minute. He'd see them coming, and they'd all be on the line, and rather than lose the race, he had a cannon in those days, and he had the lantern. And he saw them, and it was like 30 seconds or 45 seconds to start, bam, and the race would go. And nobody ever complained.
All right, I got another. When you have a fleet that's pushing the line like that consistently, what can you do to prevent that by raising a...
Here we go. Uh-oh, I've just kicked this thing.
That's right, you're not in it anyway.
Oh, good.
It's a move. Most of the time.
That's our next. Thank you. We go right through that. If your sailors keep pushing the line, and that's not going to happen much here, but if you go to a regatta, it'll happen. So you should know about this flag here, the I flag. There's a couple others we could use too, but this is the only thing really we ever see. You fly this in place of the fret if you are the race officer. At 4 minutes, you put this flag up. Now, who can tell me what happens at 1 minute when we take this flag down? If the boat is on, well, where's my little? At the start, at 1 minute, I should say. Here we got boats all over the place. Here's one here, 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 and here's another one out here trying to get back. At 1 minute, when the flag comes down, all of these boats are OCS. Are going to be. They're going to be, how's that scored? That thing is scored as what? Is it scored OCS or are they scored, I think if they don't, well, they're scored OCS unless, there we go. All right, see, I'm shoving it down here. They're all scored OCS unless they have to return to this side of the starting line or its extensions. Rule 20, what is that? What is that? Rule 20, I've got it here somewhere. 29, no, it's 29-1. I believe I'm right, 29-1. Boats that are on the course side of the starting line or its extensions are OCS unless they sail around the end of the starting line. Now, at the gun, if this guy gets down here, he'll be legal. If this guy gets down here, he'll be legal. If this guy gets down here and then starts, he is OCS. To be legal, he has got to sail out here or out here. He's got to sail from the course side around the ends. And that's a way to control your starting line, and it works. There's other flags that are even more severe than that. And if you go to regattas, I'm guessing that if you go to the Milton's 14 regattas, you'll see some black flags and some of the, what's that other one, the Romeo. Y'all see those, Josh?
They pretty much just start with the I flag. We don't get new press.
Really? Good, right? As you get into higher tech racing, they'll use the Z and the X and the.
Just tell them what the black flag, the dreaded black flag means.
And the black, and by the way, we have a black flag amongst in our inventory. The black flag means that you're out of the race. And if you protest it and lose, you're out of the regatta. Now, it's punitive. I've never used it, plan never to. But they use it in off-grid regattas. and I've had guys tell me, man, I kind of like the idea. I'm like, why do you like the idea? People love to be police officers, don't they? Man, they want to tell All right, we made friends with the timer. Now, if the whole fleet does go, and David's question about when do you general recall? There's a couple of things here. You can blow a start off by flying and blowing two horns and flying the AP before the start. But after the start, if you want to get rid of the start, you got the general recall. Two sounds when it goes up, one when it comes down. You fly this after the start. If you can't get all the numbers of boats that are over early, or this is a secret between us, a preponderance of the numbers of the boats that are over early. You just got to let your conscience be your guide on this, whether you let them go or not, with a X flag or the general recall. This is not going to happen amongst our fleets out here. It might happen to you if you go to regatta. This one right here is what you do. You blow, and that way you get your fleet back, start again. And here's where I use the 6-minute sequence. When this flag is up, and there's no rule, you can, 15 seconds after you have blown two horns and put this flag up, and the boats have all started to come back, you can take this sucker down. And now, 1 minute later, what happens? Back to the A flag. And why I don't use this, sailors want you to warn them for the warning signal. Oh, it's not just you, it's everywhere. I know an Olympian who will ask me, are you going to give us a warning? Talk to you in a minute. Let's get this thing, let's get a flag out here. All right, in 10 seconds we're going to be putting this flag up. Now our class flag is up. We're going back into sequence. Sailors want it, and so I do it. What I do is at 30 seconds I go 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You can just use the 6-minute sequence. However, now you've got 3 1-minute flags, between 3 horns and 3 sounds, a minute apart. And maybe a guy's late getting out, and he could get confused. Now that we're getting ready to start this race the second time, because these sailors have been pushing the line, we are going to use the I flag. Now we are going to use the I flag because now we've said, all right, y'all have had your fun. We're going to start taking names. And you go through the starting sequence just as we've already talked about. I need somebody up here. Y'all clean it up. All right, our races, they've all sailed down to the weather mark. Everybody's around it. They've come back. And now it's time for the finish. Usually, during the summertime, we run these courses, these midline. Here's a mark, here's a mark, here's a start line here. So we sail boats here, here, and they finish back here. Ideally, the finish line should be a lot shorter than the start line. We talked about start line length. You got 20 flying Scots out here. What did we say? 600 feet long? Yeah, 600 feet. That's way too long for a finish line because once again, the length of the starting, the length of the starting or the finish line, if there's anything, if it's incorrect at all, it's exacerbated by the longer it is, the more it is unfair. Ideally, this finish line should be much shorter, and so you've got to let your conscience be your guide here on how many of you think don't show up at one time or another. Because I can tell you, if they all show up at once, you need a longer line. But generally speaking, 100 feet is probably long enough. Now here, we're out here with 2 of us or 3 of us on this boat, and we're not going to be moving this darn thing for every time. Just not going to do it. We're going to finish on the start line. I'm going to, you're going to. At regattas here lately, I've been finishing over here where I can have a shorter line and I put it in the sailing instructions and make it obvious that that's what we're going to do so that I don't have to be changing the start line. I've been at regattas where they went out and moved the start line in for the finish and then took it back out, in and out. And you get, the more you have to screw around the mark, the more chances you have for messing up. And we're fortunate here that I have been fortunate last year that I didn't have to do a lot of moving of courses around. And this worked really well. Now, where's the finish line should be what? Square to the wind, square to the course, square to the shoreline, square to what? Square to the course. No matter what the wind's doing, the finish line needs to be square to the course, not overly long. As a courtesy to the sailors, we fly the blue flag. It is not in the rules anywhere except in the back of your rule book in signals. It does say it's a courtesy flag. It does not need to be flown. If you can't find it, you don't have to get upset about it. You've done the best you can. But it is a courtesy only. And as I told somebody here, look, I can tell stories all night. I was at a World Championship regatta in Sweden where the yacht club flag was blue. And there was a spectator boat flying the yacht club flag, and it was a very large one, up above the finish line. I read something about this the other day. There was in Scuttlebutt, they were talking about flags, and one of the sailors that was at that regatta wrote about that. It was not our greatest moment, let me say. The sailors are coming to a finish line here. And up here sits this spectator boat with a large blue flag flying. Now this guy here has got a little blue flag flying also. This is on the west coast, the east coast of the Atlantic, on Portugal. Huge seas. So frequently the boats are down in the valley and they can't see. And some guy who overstood the mark got out here, and this guy had managed to get over here, and this guy came up here and thought he was finishing there. And he went to the room because he had to come back out here and go down this way, and he lost a couple of places. The race officer, I was not the race officer, thank God. The race, I was overseeing that one. And I didn't see that because I was throwing up. I'm not lying to you. The seas, boats were this, you would maybe see the top of the mast. And then boats would come up. Boats were coming downhill to the finish line and uphill. Doggonest thing I've ever seen. And I was tossing my cookies when this went on. But the race officer, who is the race officer at the Olympics, was so shamefaced about it. And we just, at the next race, we saw that all the spectator boats kept their burgees down below. Because that's all we could do. And I think they gave the guy a redress or something. By and large, U.S. Sailing wants you to keep flags to a minimum. That way, people don't get confused. You know, you want to make this thing easy for the sailors. You don't want to ever, they start thinking about stuff and then they're not sailing fast. Let's see here. Oh boy.
Hey, Brainerd.
Oh, and then I didn't mention score sheet. We had a case this year where a score sheet went over the side, lost the race in good condition. Have a clipboard. Not bad to have a rubber band around the bottom of the clipboard. I fight this all the time because my big clipboard, it's a it's too fancy for the job. I need to get just a regular clipboard. So, because mine tends to do this, and then the rubber band wants to come off. But because you need to keep the paper. What's the precious? Those people have been busting their fanny out there, and we don't want to lose those results. If you have to keep time, Bill Robertson appreciates it if you could give him a lapse time, but now he has a new program that I think he told me that all you have to do is just give him the time, the talk time when they finish, and you give him the time you started and the time the boat finished, and he can make the connection. I use a timer on my cell phone that I start with the start of the race, and it gives me a lapse time, and it gives me big numbers. And I can punch it every time somebody goes over, and it'll give me a lap time so that I can recreate it if I lose somebody.
It's most of them, it stores that number.
Yes. Yeah, it has a whole story. I finished 25 boats or so, and I'll have 25 times that I can recreate it if I lose it. But anyhow, because you want this stuff accurate. You don't want to be guessing by God. I know the case that was mentioned to me when we were on break about the first race that started, and they got the time and everything, and then they got back into the second race right away. I forgot to put down the time. They started the race.
Brainerd.
Yes.
I'm all about some backups sometimes. So when I do race committee, I'm all about backups sometimes. So when I do race committee, I'll take the analog clock that's on the boat and start it, and then I'll also use my phone too, because it never fails that either the analog clock battery is going to die in the middle of the race,
Good point.
or your phone's going to take a dump and you're going to lose the time.
Well, you don't want to lose.
So I like that too.
That's a good idea. Good point. And the backup, yes. David?
Gonna add to your analog timer. If you don't have your cell phone and nobody else does, and you use the analog timer, the little one that's on the race committee code, it only goes 1 hour. Pay attention. When it comes down to 59 minutes, 55 seconds, you better start adding, because it only goes to 1 hour. And if your race is longer than 1 hour, you won't have time.
Good point.
Brainerd. Just to reiterate, the solid blue flag is a courtesy flag that indicates that the RC is on station to take finish. At what point should you put that up, if you're going to put it up?
Those are on the last leg.
Okay.
Good point. Good question. Something that when the boat comes around, when the boat around this mark down here is when I get this flag up. And we're going from here, we're going into the case where it's been brought up already about, on Wednesday evenings, the wind dropping. Boy, the wind drops all the time out here. We are inland lake. I go to these race management classes and I hear these guys, and they're all from the coast. Man, they got it so easy. They don't ever have to do this stuff. They don't have to shut and jive the way we do. Like last year, we were running something out here, and Josh and Corey and I were tied on to a mark, taking finishes in the middle of a race. And tied on, played like we were tied onto it. I think we were holding it with motor cut more than anything else. What do you do when the wind starts backing away and you got a race going? You've set a course twice around, finish to windward. And you've got them here and here, and they've gone around here. Here they are, here they come. 2 or 3 of them are around the mark up here, and it becomes obvious to you that they're not going to get back here to the finish line. What are your options?
Abandon race.
the leg. Now, I want to be clear that we're talking, there's two ways to shorten. You can shorten the course, or you can shorten the leg. And we're going to talk here about shortening the leg. Boats are already on this leg here. How are you going to shorten?
You gotta move the wind, lure and mark up.
Too late. They're already sailing.
Move the finish line?
You can move the finish line, but you have to have a boat down here to signal it. Or you can move the boat down here. And there's an appeal that you can set up on either side, but to make it fair to sailors, you set up over here. So that they're keeping their marks to port. You set up over here. You fly. What's this code flag? Sierra. Code flag S. That you are shortening the course, not the leg. This goes up with two sounds when the boats can see and hear. So we're talking, what, 100 yards? Close. Actually, you can do it when they're 10 feet from the line if you get there in time. As long as you get it done before they get there. And you finish between this mark, this flag, and that mark. This is your finish line. And we have shortened the course. It is now a 4-leg race instead of a 5-leg race. Where you cannot shorten is here. And boy, wouldn't that be convenient. However, the sailors don't know that. They don't, unless your sailing instructions say they've got to sail through this line going and coming, you cannot shorten there. You must shorten at a mark or a gate. At a mark of the course or a gate. If you are at the gate, and if this was a gate down here, what you would do, your finish line is actually here, and you tie on to the mark. Josh, record it. Yes. You tie on to the mark, and you take the finish across here and here. This is just a courtesy now that you're shortening course, because they're finishing between the marks. Now, we're probably not going to use a gate at a club race. I'll bring it up just for information only. What we're going to do, if we got to do this, you and me, out here on Sunday afternoon, is we're going to set up over here, and our finish line will be, I've got some in a little, our finish line between this mark here and our committee boat with the flag there. That's our finish line when we shorten this. Now, if we want to shorten the leg, you got to have another boat. And you got to, somebody mentioned shorten the leg. Good. The only leg in this race here that we're talking about, now we've got boats around here. We need to shorten something. And we can't get down here, we don't think. The only thing we can do is set up a finish line down here. But then somebody has to be down here to signal it. Because if you shorten the direction or the length of a leg, you have to warn the sailors about it. If you take a leg out of the course, you don't have to. They got 100 yards, you got 100 yard warning. You put this enough, 2 horns, and you have shortened, taken a leg out of the course. If, however, I'm going to put no, this is getting confused. I'm going to put no up there. Let's go back to the same race. Now, committee vote's here. Starting line is here. We got a mark here and a mark here. Players have been around this mark once, they're around this mark. Now they're around this mark and they're coming down here. Maybe they get all the way down here. And the wind's falling away. And you say, well, they can get here, but they're not going to get back to the finish line. What am I going to do? You need another boat. And if you don't have another boat, you must come down here and finish it. But if you got another boat out there, if there's 3 of you and you've taken one of the ribs out, you can send a rib down here to wait on them, and then you can put your finish line down here. You can put your finish line down there. And your rib goes down. And as the boats approach, code flag C, Charlie, minus. And if the wind had shifted a whole darn bunch, and you wanted to move this line, not only here, let's cross that out, there's been a big wind shift. And so you want to move the line over here. This rib would signal he's going to be busy now because he's got to blow 4 horns as they come around. And he's got to signal Charlie minus red because he's shifting the course to the left. We're not going to do this, I'm guessing, ever. Let's hope not, because we're always short-handed running our club races. But if you run into it at a regatta, this is what you got. And if you lengthen it because the wind picked up, it'd be Charlie minus plus. If you lengthen that leg, and instead the wind picked up and they moved that finish line instead of here, they moved it up here somewhere. Shame I can't draw. Now, are there any questions about this stuff? It's sort of confusing.
I do have a question.
Who has it?
I got one.
Lay it on us.
So, when you move the finish line to another mark, does it matter which side the race committee votes on?
Does not. There's a.
Okay.
I have not read it, but I am told. So I've been told that there is an appeal, and they have said as long as you're. The rules say at a nearby mark. It does not say which side.
Okay, because we've had people round them to come back up and finish. Cause
if you round it and come back up, in a situation like that, I think they have found that they hadn't got a protest and they haven't finished properly because you're. Let's see what they said about it. That's a blanket question.
Yeah, because we had that happen before.
Rules,
where it's like
I think the rules cover this.
You got to be on the right side. If not, then everybody thinks you have to round the mark.
See, that's the reason. That's the reason that I say I set up over here. I drew it backwards. Ha ha! I drew it backwards over here. Over here, I had it right. I got turned around.
Race committee does that too.
Disregard previous.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like.
No, let me do this. Let me get it right. All right. We got a mark. We got a starting line. We got a vote. Flag on it. We got another mark down here. And we want to finish over here, it's this way. I did it wrong. That's all there is to it. Or here, and here's where we get the Charlie. I drew that wrong. Here we go. Here we got the finish line flag. March the 4th. And this way there's no question. However, the rules allow you to set up over here. The rules say you say up that the finish, it doesn't say which side. Let me look this sucker up here and I'll read it. March 3.
Finish between the mark and the committee vote.
And a nearby.
The question was, do you have to keep the mark at the ports, or do you have to go around the whole thing?
That's a new mark.
That's what he said. It doesn't matter. You have to just finish between the two, even if the race committee sets up on the wrong side.
The race committee signals a shortened course, displays code flag S with two sounds. The finishing line shall be at a rounding mark and a nearby, between a rounding mark and a staff displaying flag S. A line the course requires the boat to cross, and that is if we tell them they have to cross the starting line going and coming, which we don't do here, or at a gate, between the gate marks. If the direction of the leg shall be changed, the signal shall be the display of code flag C with repetitive sounds, and either a new compass bearing or a green triangle or a red rectangle. The length of the leg change, the signal will be displayed Charlie with repetitive sounds. And it doesn't say which side of the, doesn't say anything about which side of the mark.
Okay.
Which is why if you've got sailing instructions that say march to port, if you're going to be fair to the sailors, keep march to the port.
Yeah.
Don't give them, don't
Some
make it
people
where a
get
guy's got to
confused.
think about it.
Don't think about it.
Yeah, make it simple.
Yeah.
And as simple as you can. And look, maybe I can see a situation where you are trying to set up a finish line in the channel and you hadn't got enough scope. In that case, you've got to set up on the wrong side and holler at them. I mean, you're not going to do that for God or anything.
Right.
For us, damn it, we're friends, and so we're going to help one another out.
Just to clarify, it says between the committee vote and the mark.
Yes.
It doesn't specify
Right.
for starting, so
No.
if you see a committee vote there and a mark, you finish between
You
those.
finish, no matter which side it's on, but we've had this case where somebody is overthinking it,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they'll
That's
come
why I
down
want to
here
get that cleared.
and do this. Now, see, and the committee votes over here because for whatever reason he couldn't get over there, or maybe he was under pressure and made a mistake, and you know, whatever. And then they'll come down here and want to think that that's the legal finish. But the rules are pretty clear. It's not the rules, it's the appeal, that if it's between a vote and a nearby mark and you go between them, you don't add a leg to the course. I've dropped something that.
I picked it up.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm going to end up drawing all over my hand, I'm sure.
Brainerd?
Yeah.
I was involved in a situation like that late at night, and it was kind of dark, and we were just finishing. It was tough to see which side they were on. And I did exactly what he was talking about. I went around and finished on the side of where the normally finished. But if you keep in mind that the finish has to be square to the course,
Yes.
then you would know you don't have to loop around to finish. So if you
Well,
honor
this
the
is probably not
square
going to happen much, but we try to keep it simple.
I think somebody overanalyzed it once and we all followed. We were all confused after that. So.
Now, one more thing. And this is, and then anything we'll Then we'll just open it free for all, and y'all all shoot me down, anything you want to try me with. We had a race this year. It was was it Wednesday night or was it a Sunday evening? Or was it a Wednesday night race? And it got dark. And the wind went away to the zippo. And we were sailing up to the tower. And the wind got fluky. And if you got closer to the tower, the wind got flukier. You could not really get around that mark. It took forever. And it got dark and dark. And the race committee came by and said, I can't find anything in the rules that lets me cancel this race. And after all, the race committee can cancel a race at any time if it deems the conditions are unfair, or if it becomes obvious the race will not finish within the allotted time, or for any other reason affecting fairness of the competition. Where's that? 32. Here we go. Because of foul weather, insufficient wind, making it unlikely any boat will finish. Because a mark is missing or out of position. For any other reason directly affecting the safety or fairness of the competition. So you can blow this sucker off. And how do you cancel a race? Here we go. Code flag in is flown with how many sounds? 3. You hear 3 sounds? All bets are off. Now this flag can be flown by itself. And by itself it says return to the starting area. It can be flown over H. I got one up here. Where is my H? There we go. There it is. It can be flown with an H, which says go back to the harbor.
Bad weather.
Or it can be flown over an A. And A says, put your sails up, pack your boat up, and go home. No more racing today. Come on, Eddie, unroll. But in all cases, if you're running a race and you see a thunderstorm coming over Lookout Mountain, put up an end, get them off the water. Once again, I can tell stories all night. We were running a snipe national championship up in Lake Erie, and we had radar, and we saw one coming. We were sailing a windward leeward, full windward leeward race. Finish line up here. This thing's not drawing. Where's my other? The one I'm drawing on. Finish line's going to be up here. And we've got boats getting ready to round down here. And the harbor is up here. And the race officer asked me, what are we going to do? And I looked at the storm and I looked and I thought, well, you guys got to go up there anyhow. So let's just go ahead and finish the race and hope and pray, because they got to go there anyhow to get off the water, and we got away with it. But I sure am glad we did, because when it did hit, it just meant that we saw a thunderstorm coming up around the button, coming right. And it was me. And I put up an N over H and sent the fleet in. Some were past us, and some were still coming. We're shepherding everybody off. And the JY-15 from down in Muscle Shoals capsized on the Hedge Road. So we motor up in our pontoon boat. Come on, we'll take y'all in, we'll come back and get the boat. And this pastor says, I'm not leaving my boat. His mast is in the hedgerow. His boat ain't going anywhere until next year. All I can think of is if I leave this guy out here and something happens, my name's going to be in the paper. And I will tell you, I asked for airport next day. That was back when I was still flying, and I was buddies with the guys in the control tower. And I called them up and I said, man, yesterday you had a thunderstorm in the middle of Chickamauga Lake. What did it look like? He said, oh man, that sucker was level 6. I'll tell you why, being in hell. There was lightning all around us, water coming sideways. It was miserable. Poor Buzzy was out there suffering from cancer and on his way to death. He never got on another boat. We came in, we were ground brass. But we stayed out there with that SOB through that thunderstorm, because we didn't feel like we needed to leave. And I know if we left him, somebody would have said something about it. So I guess we did the right thing, but I wonder if we didn't help Buzzy in one bit out there that day. I will tell you that, because everybody, when they're dealing with those issues, needs all of the resistance they got, and we had to use some of Buzzy's, I know. Looking back, I think about it a lot. And I go to these race management classes, and these guys, they all deal with these issues, these pristine issues. They don't ever have stuff like that. Except last year at Mobile, when they had a big blowdown and they actually lost it because they kept the race going with the thunderstorm coming. And they actually had people die. Well, I worried about that too that day. And what are your responsibilities? Your responsibilities are to conduct fair racing. But above that is to conduct safe racing. And which is why I still think about that thing up at Lake Erie. Without doing it, I hope I did the right thing. We got away with it, but I don't know what else to do. I have been out on the race course, and maybe you have too, when stuff blows up. I was crewing with Dan Williams one time down in Jacksonville, and it was a beautiful, clear day. And what strikes me about this is how much wind there was, and yet it wasn't dark and threatening. But we had something come through that was like nothing I have ever seen before. And Pete DeVoice was out there that day. People blew up on shore. We were planing with sails down. Planing. And you couldn't take a deep breath because there was water this high off the surface of the water. The water was, you could barely see through it. There was so much water blowing the tops off the waves up this high. And I don't know, gee whiz, such a beautiful day. I don't know whether the race committee saw it coming or not. But this was in the days before radar. So maybe they got surprised as well as we did. But we were all shocked. There was boats turned over left and right. At the Olympics in '96, when I was doing play-by-play, we were out on the 470 race course offshore. And the race officer, I was doing play-by-play. I'm not a race officer or anything. All I'm doing is BSing with the people that pay the spectators. And we had some black stuff come in. And I looked out the window, and the clouds were running sideways in a big circle. And I looked at the radar screen that the captain had. I was up in the pilot house where the microphone was. And we were right dead center of this hook pattern like this. I later learned that that's the symbol, that is the signature of a tornado. But when we got in, somebody asked me, "Did you see the funnel cloud right over your boat?" No, I did not. But what I recall was all those 470s out there with their sails down in the trough of these waves, and you couldn't see. There was so much moisture in the air. We were afraid we were going to run over somebody. It was terrifying. What in the name of, I look back and I think, what in the name of heaven were we doing out there? How quickly, I didn't know how quickly it blew up. I was busy doing my thing, you know, not telling people what they're looking at and all that. And then all of a sudden we've got hell breaks loose. And let me just say it wasn't safe for anybody out there, for me, for my passengers, for those sailors in those 470s out there wallowing down in the bottom, those guys down in the bottom of the boat, laying down with their sails down, just trying to ride it out. And here's this big 300 passenger boat trying to make its way through them all. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think it's a great idea for the race committee to stay and make sure that everybody gets off the race course. But at a certain level, and I guess it depends on what the situation is with the race committee boat. But if you're the captain of that boat, and a lot of times the PRO is the captain, you're responsible for the safety of your crew on that boat. And so
well, we're also responsible for the sailors too, though. I mean, that, you know, we just can't shed that responsibility.
And just three or four against one.
Yeah. Cost them all. Yeah. All right, who's got any questions they want to ask? I lied on the dog, but. All right, who's been in a situation that didn't know what they were doing, or they wish they had some help on? Yeah, Rob.
I got let's say you're on a big boat, run races, maybe a houseboat. So you get the race off, and you successfully get a start off, nobody's over early, they're going. But you look, you've been drifting, your houseboat, because of windage or whatever, has been drifting backwards all the time during probably the last minute or so of your start sequence. So you did not have an anchor locked into the line. Because I think this happened to a pontoon boat too.
It's happened to us all. There are several things you can do. So one thing is you can general recall and start the race over. And then you can say, anybody notice? I think that's just too, man. I think that's just let the difference all get out. And I start the engine in hold position. I have been on the finish line boat at a world championship that was held only by motor. The ground tackle absolutely would not hold the boat. And they had to hold position. And this was before GPS, and it was being held with a hand-bearing compass doing this number. And he got away with it. World championship race. Nobody people that you read about in the Yahoo Press. And nobody said a word. So, if you get away with it, it's legitimate. If you get away. But if anybody calls you, if anybody comes in, you're going to lose that race. That's all there is to it. Unless you lie like a dog in a protest room.
Well, let's just, we'll carry one more step. Let's say someone does write to me immediately after the start, or maybe someone's late for the start, and they say, hey, you're drifting. So you got someone, you got a competitor now that knows that
you better have an answer, or else you're going to AT or
right? You could abandon.
You can abandon, or you can abandon. You can never recall. You can never recall race after it's gone around. I tell you all the way to 11 o'clock. Then after that, you probably should abandon. But if it's before the start, AP, let's say AP is your friend. Everybody has screwed up, and you put up AP, and don't be ashamed of it. Put it up, never shows that you're on the ball.
AP after the start.
Before the start. Or at least if it doesn't show you're on the ball, it makes you think you're on. That counts too.
Yeah. If you want to do a windward leeward, like I had to set up one time this past year, and make it long enough on the leg, and the wind direction is a problem. And you just do windward leeward, and the starting line is over on the end of the course, and then you're going to have a windward mark, and you want to do 2 laps. What becomes the turning, leeward turning mark? What is it the pin or the boat, or does the starting line become a gate?
No, it's going to be a windward lure. The starting mark would be your mark, unless you put something even further out. But say your starting mark, let's be fair to sailors to get the video out of the way. You can set it up on the other side. Has to be fair to sailors, so you're moving it out and trying to find out what's going on.
So the pin becomes
the pin can be mark. Yeah, well, we did that way for years. Nowadays, we all got so pristine that nowadays we'll end up putting up a course that looks like this. We'll put the committee vote here, and here's our start line, and now we'll set a gate up here, and we'll set our weather mark up here, and then, oh, wait a minute, let me do that. Let's say we set our weather mark here, and then we'll set our finish line up here above the weather mark. But for 40 years, when we raced between this mark and that mark, and this mark, and we raced here and finished there. 50 years, 60 years, I don't know, forever. So yeah, the pin mark can be the, but if you got the video anchor down there, it gives like it just takes the word out. We'll go on the other side for the finish, or come up here and finish. Oh, you have a question?
And this is, and yeah, this is a, kind of, the wind a lot of times is shifting out there. And, yeah, and I know this is not how much, there are a lot of times when it's happening during the starting sequence, and at about what point do you say, I think it's probably time, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees before you say, I think we better AD and reset our line? Do you have any idea of, or what's your thoughts on
the late Hugh Elliott and a victim? It was this. When it came to changing the starting line or changing the mark, 10 you should, 15 you must, and 5 you're just showing off. So that's, I thought a lot of you, and I thought he was a smart guy, and that's kind of been my mantra ever since.
Because I
I
know
didn't that.
finish, so I got me thinking that was.
I almost never use it myself. I hardly ever use it. Back in the day, when the Olympic course was designed by the Olympics, it was to show off all points of sale. And for those of you who haven't raced this course, here it is. Here's your starting line, and you sail, and you triangle, and then you come up here and sail around that mark, and come down here, sail around here again, and you go up here and finish up here. 5-leg course, and you sail to windward twice, and you sail, or 3 times. Sail to windward 3 times, and you reach and you run. So you've shown that you can handle your boat on all points of sail. It has fallen into this favor because Flying Scots all have the same hull speed. And if they're all sailed equally well, they will all sail the same speed unless the wind is really up there. Snipes will do the same thing. In light air, so will the MC scows. And in light air, so will high flyers and the Belgian 14s. However, there is no or very little tactics involved in sailing down here. Some. Those of us who used to race against Buzzy Lamb know that there's a lot more than you think. Because Buzzy could always sail by you on a reach, particularly in light air, and it wasn't hurt by the fact that Margie didn't weigh any more than he did. So there could be some, but in most competitions, the reach is a parade unless the wind is really blowing, and boats then can plane, and then you can have some, it can be fun and exciting. Going to windward, everybody knows how tactical that is, right? If the wind doesn't change, the weather mark's there, and the committee boat's down here, everybody sails the same distance. But if the wind goes over here 10 or 15 degrees, I should have gone down. Let me call that over again. You see that the area that you sail in is much smaller, and that's like a 15-degree shift. That's why we sail the long leg first, because if we sail the long leg first, we minimize the chances of being caught out. If the wind shifts back, well, then we shorten our course even more. Well, the same holds true off the wind. Sailing off the wind is just as tactical as sailing upwind. In the old days, it wasn't. We all just plowed along. But nowadays, we jive on this, where we tack on our headers, now we jive on our headers off the wind. It's way more tactical. And the reaches are totally, basically not tactical at all. They're just boat handling and whether you're lighter or heavier or faster. Now, when the wind picks up and boats can plane, then they become exciting. I use them at regattas I go to only if boats can plane. And if they can't plane, I don't want them on the reach because they just bow off. There might be some few changes in place, but there won't be much. But on reaches and runs, people can pick up ground or lose ground. Yes?
So on reaches in light air in dinghies, there are some tactical right?
Straight down there, yes, there are.
Yeah, but on reaches as well, right?
Not so much.
I mean,
You can go low and then come in,
Yeah.
or you go high and come in, but you swap off, it's just, if you go in and in, it's keeping your air clear. It's a big thing. If you got, Buzzy was drinking that dropping low on the reach to get clear air from everybody in the fleet, and he and Marty didn't wait anything, and then they'd come in hot at the mark. But,
When they jive, they would turn the
but
boat
I was
off.
talking about people whenever. Hey, they're not the only ones that turned over from the jive. And they're not the only ones that just turned over planing off wind. And I'll tell you what, if y'all have ever capsized when you're planing with a jib pulled out, it's like a car wreck. I got thrown into the boat. I got thrown, so I came up under the number of the sail. The boat was on top of me. I was under the sail, out by the number. I mean, I was launched. The boat rolled and put the jib in the water, and it's, I'm telling you, just like that.
Watch it.
Oh, getting ready to knock this thing down again.
I do have one question for you.
All right, who's got a question?
I got one.
Go right ahead.
So, I did dinghies one time, and nobody showed up but me to do dinghies. And then at the finish, I had 10 dinghies of all different makes finished, so the time mattered. How do you track all of that at one time?
Depends on depends on what the deal is when you start the race. If they're just racing boat for boat, or you just take finishes,
Yeah, but
but
these
they're
are-
probably racing each of them. You got
Yeah, this is Portsmouth.
Scots against Scots and MCs against MCs
Right.
and Belgian 14s against them. So you got to take like 3 or 4 finishes. That's a good question. You got to take 3 or 4 finishes.
Yeah, but they all finished at the same time.
Get your camera,
And
get
it
your
was hard.
camera out and video it.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I did. I did the best guessing I could.
All right, I've told this story. I've told this story, and I'm kind of tickled about it always. Some of you remember when we had the Wi-Fi Nationals here, and you recall there wasn't any wind in that regatta. And we got in races, God only knows how. I know we flew off the last day, and they took us to the room, and I waited till the guy was within 50 yards of the finish line before I gave up on it, because the current was overpowering it. And the lead boat did take me to the room. But the second race of the regatta, I think it was, it's the first day of the regatta. And I know I had stayed awake all night. I couldn't sleep because I knew there was no wind and wondered how in the name of heaven I was going to run a regatta with no wind. Well, we had a couple of knots. And that's all the Wi-Fi needed. And so I ran them up that way, wind was lower, and we ran them off midline finish. Midline start and finish. And I've got them around the weather mark. And the wind just shuts down. I mean, it's nothing. And they're all together. Now, a few of them are out front. I'll keep looking at it. Well, find out now. I'm going to have to finish this at the bottom of the course. So we take an up anchor and we go down, and we're going to shorten course at the bottom. And actually, they were straggling out somewhat. But after we got set up, I look up the race course and I see wind up behind the fleet. And don't you know, the biblical verse came through. Last shall be first, and the first shall be last. And here they came, and I had 43 boats, Y-flyers, approach the finish all at the same time. Now, Y-flyers have about that much freeboard, like an MC. So they don't have any bow numbers. And they're an old class. So they got long sail numbers. And those sails are out this way. And some of them are out that way. Now we can't read them. Diane Hickey was on the committee boat with me. And and I can't remember who was on the, Dan Williams was on the Ken boat, and I can't remember who else. I had a recorder. I was new. I had just gotten a recorder that year, I think. Voice recorder. I had somebody else on the boat, and I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. Old man on the radio, 8 finishes over there. Set up on the finish line, put an anchor out and take finishes. And I'm going to take finishes here. And I had somebody on the boat take finishes and give them to Diane. I talk finishes into my little voice recorder. And God bless him, Hugh Elliott, who was our chief judge at that regatta, saw the thing happening, and he had a recorder. And so the chief judge set up behind my 10 boat, and he took a recording. We had 4 finishes, none of which agreed. And I sat down on the end of the committee boat of the race of the clubhouse while everybody was drinking beer after the race. And I sat down there and put those 4 finishes together. I listed them side by side, and I just kind of pushed them together and posted them. And nobody said a thing. And so I'm going to tell you, I got away with it, but I don't recommend it. But there's your answer. Lunchtime, guys. Anybody got anything else they want to hear for lunch? Yeah.
One quick question. I'm referring to a race that happened a couple of years ago, late at night, or I mean, it was an evening race.
Yeah, so we won't track anybody's reputation.
Right. No, I'm not going to mention names. Anyhow, long story short, I think we were approaching the time limit for the race. They had finished 1 or 2 boats, and there were still other boats on the course trying to finish when they called the race.
Oh, that's a good question.
So I didn't know how that should be scored.
All right, here you are, and that's a great question, and I should have already touched on this. If one boat finishes before the time limit, you must finish all boats. Now, we put something in our sailing instructions a lot of times that around here that nobody finishes within 30 minutes of the lead boat. We finish everybody 1 point more than the last boat finished. So that you could have maybe 3 boats finish and everybody else in the race gets 4. Some classes say 2 points more than the last boat finish. I prefer 1, but either way, it's a better deal because if you take 1 finish, you must take all. And if you hadn't got a time limit, and by the way, the rule book makes no mention of, that's the only mention of time limit it makes. You can run a regatta, a race with no time limit. There we go. We'll be out there all night. Now, last summer when we were out there, or fall, we were out there all night. One boat, I think, approached a shortened course finish, except there was not a race. The race committee went home and left us out there, which was wrong. So if I think that if the race committee is going home, they ought to abandon. Don't you? That's a common courtesy. I think Bob and I got in around 10 o'clock.
Here's the thing, the race committee boat doesn't have any running lights. So you legally can't stay out there.
Well, I'm telling you, this right now, we have no business, Bob. All right, guys, let's go to lunch.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's get